In this video, I'm going to compare two Clever Fox dotted notebooks, their original, which is this one on the left, and their 2.0 version, which is the one on the right. So Clever Fox is one of my favorite brands and probably in the top 5, I'd say, for the sewn bound ones. Normally I will steer clear of sewn binding because they have yellowish pages, the pages don't tend to lay flat, and for some reason they can be just as expensive as a coil bound anyway. So I normally will avoid them. Except for Clever Fox because there's plenty of options. So I've got their dotted notebooks here, but I also have their weekly planner. They've got meal planners, budget planners, like food diaries, all different kinds of notebooks. They're readily available on Amazon, which I prefer to shop via because I'm in Australia and shipping can be super expensive if you just buy individual things from each brand's website. But if you can combine different brands on Amazon, the shipping is way cheaper to get it here. There's plenty of cover colors to choose from, so I cannot stand just a plain black cover on a sewn bound notebook. It's so boring. So these ones you can see have a bit of point of difference. 2.0 has all of these nice graphics indented onto the cover, like embedded in it, and the original version just has the color on the cover. The other thing that I like about the Clever Fox is that the pages are bright white. It's not that yucky yellow you find in most sewn bound, and the pages are 120 GSM. So a lot of the sewn bound for some reason are only about 100 GSM, and the difference in that 20 for the thickness is heaps. The paper turns out pretty well in a pen test, which I'll show you later in this video. I've tested highlighters, marker pens, stamps, and you can see that the paper doesn't hold up too bad. It's at a much lower price point than a 160 GSM dotted notebook, so those can be about $50. These are only 13 USD for the original and then 18 USD for the 2.0 version. So I think that's quite an affordable price point. Okay, so let's do a comparison. So the dimensions of the original is about, I wrote it down, 5 inches wide by 8.25 inches high, and the 2.0 is 5.75 inches wide by about 8.5 inches high. If I just lay these two over each other, you can see just that little bit of difference. It might not matter to some, but I would definitely say the 2.0 is better for the size. I much prefer just that little bit extra width. If I'm using this original one here, I would only be able to fit one column of a to-do list, but on this 2.0 version, I could definitely fit 2 columns, and just gives you a bit more room to write. So I'm just going to remove this label so we can see it a bit clearer. Both of them have an elastic band to keep everything closed. I've just taken it off to film this review. They both have a pen loop as well. And they both have 3 ribbon bookmarks. This one is just all in the same color in gray, but the 2.0 you get 2 pink and then there's one of this like red mauvey color. So unfortunately they're not all 3 different colors in each of them, but at least this one has 2 different. That's a start. All right, let's have a look at the front. So whenever I get a dot grid notebook, I will always count the dots and then put it on a sticky note at the front of the notebook. And this makes it a lot easier when I'm ruling up spreads. So if I wanted to do a 3-column list, for example, or 3 sections for like a daily planner or whatever it is, I can just take the width that I've written here, divide it by however many, 3, 4, 5 boxes, whatever, and it will automatically tell me like how many rows, how many dots to count for the rows, and then also the height, each way. Just way easier than sitting here going, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's put a little marker. We got to count some more. I've counted it wrong. Rub it out, got to redo it. It just takes heaps longer. So I definitely recommend doing that with all of your dot grid notebooks when you purchase them. So the inside here, we can see straight away we've got some bright white pages, and the grid, number of dots on the grid is a bit different. So there's less on this A5 version, even though it is a larger page size, because the dots in this one are 5 mil and the dots in the original are only 4 mil. So let's have a look. So I'm not even going to the middle of the notebook, and the pages are laying flat, as you can see. And if you want them to lay extremely flat, you can just flip the notebook over, pull the pages back, and then they'll lay even more flat. So we can see straight away the difference in the dot grid. Much prefer this one. The dots are less obvious. It's like a lighter shade of gray, so after you rule your spread, the dots are going to like fade into the background a bit. But this one here, they're going to be way more obvious because it's a much darker gray on that page. Both of them have a little bit of space between the edge of the top and the side, so you're not there awkwardly, with your ruler right on the edge trying to draw a line, which really irritates me in some dot grid notebooks. And you've got a bit of space here as well. Down the bottom, you can see that we have page numbers for both of them. If I just skip to the back, we can do a comparison of the number of pages that are included. So we've got 155 in the 2.0, and in the original, I think it was 127. Yeah, 127. So you get more pages in the 2.0 version, which could be why it costs a little bit more. Both of the notebooks have these stickers, and I'm pretty sure they come with all of their planners as well, because everything that I've purchased from Clever Fox seems to have this same sheet of stickers, just some generic icons you can use wherever. As for the size of these, I don't normally work in inches, so I'm just going to say in centimeters that I think it's about 1.5 centimeters wide. If anyone is interested, I can do a measure and include that in the blog post, which will be linked down below if you really want to know. So we have a pocket folder at the back of the original, and there is also a pocket folder at the back of the 2.0 version. So that's the same. Now let's have a look at the pen test, which is probably what you are most interested in. So just open them up side by side. I try to use the same pens whenever I do a pen test so we can really see how notebooks compare. So I have my favorite Papermates. I've got some gel, ballpoint, fine tip, fine liner, some highlighters, stamps, and my all-time favorite, the Pilot Friction Erasable, which is pretty much exclusively what I will use in these doc grid notebooks anyway, because it's just so much less stressful when you know that you can rub things out versus using like a permanent pen, and then it looks really bad with whiteout. Not so bad in these because the pages are so white, but you can still see, little whiteout tapes. That's why I will almost always use a friction erasable. So let's have a look at the ghosting on the back side. So remember, this is 120 GSM thick. If you want something that has absolutely no show through, you would need to probably spend double the cost of these notebooks to get a 160 GSM. And if you have 160, there's going to be no show through, but you can see with 120, it's not too bad. If you just stick to using ballpoint and gel or even fine liner, you should be good. It's just the marker pens and some stamps, particularly the Mamby stamps, that are showing through. Little bit of show through for the highlighters, but not enough that it would stop me from writing on this side of the page. And it's very similar for the original. You can see those marker pens, the stamps, and then a little bit of the highlighters as well. So the paper is 120 GSM thick in both of them. So that's the same. And apart from that, there isn't really anything else that I wanted to touch on. Just put them side by side for you here, so you can see. So hopefully that I hope this video was helpful. I will have a full pros and cons list and the similarities and differences in the blog post, which will be linked down below. If I had to choose, I definitely think the 2.0 version is better. I like the dot grid spacing. You get more pages. They both have a pocket folder, so there's no real, difference there. The cover to me is a lot nicer on this one and a bit more unique with the little drawings on it versus this kind of plain cover. And it's only $5 more. So for me personally, I would just spend a little bit extra and get this nicer one, the 2.0. So I have all those links that I mentioned down below where you can find these notebooks on Amazon, my blog post, some of the pens that I tested if you wanted to get those pens, particularly the friction erasable. All that stuff will be linked in the comments box down below. Don't forget to subscribe. I usually do a new review video each week for doc grid notebooks and weekly planners.